Hi folks, Max from HighOnAndroid.com, where we get on Android every day. Anyway, today let's talk about overclocking. Overclocking Android. For those of you who don't know what overclocking is basically making your CPU's maximum frequency bigger. So let's say your phone runs at 1 gigahertz. We're going to overclock it to 1.5 gigahertz. That gives you a performance boost of almost 50%. Now, there are some misconceptions. Overclocking on Android devices or any of the mobile devices completely different in a sense that some people will be like, oh, my CPU's gonna fry, or oh, my phone's gonna like burn up, or some stuff like that. But here's the difference. I've actually overclocked all of my Android devices. I've got like 50 of them, and I've overclocked my computer too. From 3.6 to 4.2 gigahertz. Let me tell you my story about overclocking. When I first overclocked my PC, it was like 15 years ago, or some crappy computer I had back then. And I was overclocking, I was messing with the voltages. I made it too high and it burned the chip. So I had to buy a new Pentium chip or something. Like the day I got it, it sucked and I was all, crying. With the PCs, you can actually fry your chip very, very easily by just, messing with just even 0.1 volts. It can just fry it instantly. Because PC chips aren't really designed for mobile use. They don't have the safety mechanisms of mobile devices. Now, with most of the Android phones, if you overclock too far, if you go over the voltage, at the worst, it's not going to burn up. It's just going to reboot. It's going to reboot your system. And it'll still work. So pretty safe to do on Android devices. And I've overclocked over like 50 Android devices so far in the last couple of years I've had Android devices. They're completely safe. At the worst, your phone will reboot and you just have to find the right frequency. Don't go too high. That will not make your phone reboot. And plus, these chips are designed to be fit in a small compartment. Not like PC chips where you have a big ass CPU fan trying to cool it down. So there's a huge difference. These things do not have those cooling fans, so they've been designed at the worst. They'll not fail like PC chips. So if you're worried about burning your CPU, do not worry. That shouldn't be on your worry list. So I just want to assure you that. And next topic of overclocking. Does overclocking really make your phone faster? Oh yeah, it does. I have some of my older like my Galaxy S2 or my G2 phone, my old G2 phone from HTC. It can overclock to 1.8 gigahertz, and based on benchmarks and just running apps set side by side with some of the newer phones, it actually runs faster than some of the newer phones. So overclocking does have benefits. It can get your old phone running super fast. For example, I cannot run my Galaxy Note GTN 7000 without overclocking on the latest TouchWiz 4.1.2 Jelly Bean ROMs because it's laggy. But once I overclock it, just 1.4 to 1.6 gigahertz, it makes it just fast, makes it just as usable, no lag whatsoever. So great thing about overclocking. Next topic about overclocking. Now, does overclocking use up a lot of battery life? Of course it does. When you overclock, you are essentially providing more voltage, so it uses more power. Now, does that mean if you overclock from, let's say, 1 gigahertz, 1.5 gigahertz, it's going to run at 1.5 gigahertz the whole time? No, it depends on your governor, but most governors I recommend is to use on-demand. On-demand basically means that it's not going to actually go to the maximum CPU until your phone needs it. So let's say you're not doing anything and just holding your phone and it's idle, it's not going to actually overclock. But once you start opening up games, apps, and multitasking, then it's going to ramp up to the maximum frequency, and that's where overclocking comes in. So by overclocking doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to actually run at that speed all the time. Now, if you use a lot of apps, if you're very busy on your phone, it's going to go that fast, and those apps will run faster because you've overclocked. And of course, battery life isn't going to be as good. So that's why if you do overclock, I do recommend about optimal 10 to 20% overclock. So maybe 1 gigahertz. If you're stock running 1 gigahertz, then I recommend about 1.2 gigahertz. If you're running like 1.4 gigahertz, maybe 1.6 gigahertz, you know, that way you have the best of performance and also still get kind of fairly good battery life. So I think I did a wrap up of Android overclocking, how it works. It is very safe. I've never seen a single fry CPU. That's a myth, you know. It should have happened to me already. If that is possible, it should have happened to me already. And also, battery life, of course, you know, you're not going to get as good battery life. That's just a fact because you're using more voltage. And, you know, third, how do you install these? You'll need a custom kernel that supports it, or a lot of the Samsung Galaxy Notes, Note 10.1, Note 2 S3. If you have the Exynos processor, you can use this app called Tegra Overclock app. I'll have a link to my video tutorial on how to use that. That one just needs a rooted phone, and basically it will install a overclockable kernel module instead of a whole kernel, so you can try it out overclocking. For those of you who've rooted with custom ROMs and custom recovery, go ahead and try different kernels. The Note 2 is an excellent platform. I've got overclock kernel on every one of my Note 2s. That's why I love it, because there's a lot of supports, kernel. You know, I've got it overclocked to, I think, 1.8 gigahertz, running super fast. Yeah, so go ahead and install custom kernel in the apps. There's a bunch of CPU apps you can use. One of the main ones I use is Set CPU. You can get it on the market, so you can buy it, or you can get it free at XDA. Just type it and go there and download the APK, or you can buy it on the market. And also there's a lot of other CPU apps, and a lot of the AOSP ROMs like CM10.1, AOSP, those ROMs have it built in. If you have some of the newer Android 4.2.2 ROMs, go to About Phone and hit the developer options like 5 or 10 times, and you'll see the performance menus. So there's different ways to overclock, but you do need a stock ROM or a rooted stock ROM using Tegra Overclock app, or you do need a custom ROM with a custom kernel that supports overclocking, or you can install a custom kernel that's compatible with whatever ROM you're running that also supports overclocking. Anyway, I know it can get kind of confusing. If you have any questions about overclocking, don't forget to leave in the comment section below. And if you like this video, as always, don't forget to hit that like button for me here, subscribe button down there, and I'll see you guys soon. Stay high on Android. Yeah, that's right, baby.